Okay, so we're going to do some outdoor electric work for garden lighting, and these are the things you're going to need to either replace lights that have burned out or add new lights. We have a cutter to cut through old insulation. We have wire cutters for cutting the heavy wire we're going to use. We have wire strippers that'll take the insulation off the wire and reveal the copper conductors. We have the wire itself, which is 16 gauge garden wiring. Lower number means thicker wire. Thicker is better. If you get 12 gauge, it's even better. 16 is fine though, and it's readily available at Home Depot, and they call it garden lighting cable. It's weatherproof and light proof. Solder. There are lots of solders on the market now. Many of them are lead free. I do not like the lead free solders. They don't work nearly as well as the lead type. So this is lead and tin mixed with a rosin core. That means you don't need any external flux like a plumber would use. This is all built in. There's a core down the middle of flux that makes the solder stick to the copper. I used one of two types of soldering guns. This is a heavy gauge, heavy electrical type, and it's quite good, but I really like the propane type, which you attach to a propane blowtorch, and the tip gets very, very hot, holds a lot of heat, and can solder heavy wires quickly, and you don't need to run power to it. So it's a completely portable unit. This is also a very important thing. There's lots of different electrical tapes on the market, but and most of them are vinyl. Do not buy vinyl electrical tape. I want you to buy rubber electrical tape. This is called linerless rubber, made by Scotch/3M. They make a bigger spool of this for contractors. You can find both at Home Depot, and that number 2242, very important. The big thing about this stuff is that after it's been wrapped together and held together for a while, it actually turns into a continuous piece of rubber that's watertight. You could be tempted to use those little spin-on morettes for wiring. Do not use them for outdoor lighting. Weather will get in there and wreck them. So that's why we're going to solder, then we're going to insulate with this rubber type of tape. And then to hold our wires together down to the lights and to the bricks, we're going to use cable ties. Use the black ones because they are ultraviolet proof, meant for outdoor use. The white nylon style, after a few years in sunlight, will fall apart. So you buy the outdoor black type. Okay, now we'll move on to a light, and we'll go through the motions of adding a new light. So let's go through the motions of adding a new light to the circuit. So what I'm going to do is find a light, any light along the path. But the one I have here is the end of the line. So we've got two wires running to it, which supply the 12 volt DC power. And as you know, I like to mount them on bricks to keep them so they're nice and secure, but they also can be moved around. And I find the lighting in the fall is different than the lighting in the summer, and the lighting in the winter is different again. So you can move them around to light different things up. So we're going to add a light to this. So here we have the incoming power, 12 volts DC over that 16 gauge wire. It comes in, comes down to our nice watertight rubber tape that has formed like a continuous piece of rubber after it's sat there for a while. And so we need to get at those conductors. So what I'm going to do is cut away the cable tie that I've got there, and I'm going to use my sharp knife to get in to this connection area. And okay, so we've exposed the solder joints that were here, and I've turned on the light. Now this light actually happens to be burned out. I'm going to replace this one in a little while, but we've got power coming through to here, and you don't have to have a meter, but just to prove which side's positive, because it does matter with LED lights which side's positive and which side's negative. You can see that this conductor has got little lines on it right here, and this conductor is flat, is smooth, does not have lines on it. So I have consistently through our garden used the ones with the lines on it to be the positive side of the circuit, and the smooth one to be the negative side of the circuit. And on these lights, negative corresponds to blue, and positive corresponds to brown on this style of light. You have to get the polarity right or they won't work. If you get them backwards, the light won't come on at all. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare the wire for the addition of the next light. So we take our 16 gauge garden wire, and we like to use this clippers to open it up, and then you will see that I have staggered the length of these wires, and that's so that they can never touch. These two can never come in contact with each other and short out. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to leave the positive one long. We're going to cut the negative one down shorter, and then we're going to strip that one. And the other one. All right. Okay, now we've got nice copper wire here, and I'm going to take the smooth side and wrap it around the negative side. And at this point, I would introduce solder to this to solder it. And then I would do the positive side. Turn off the circuit while you're doing this so you don't accidentally short anything out. So turn off the lights, then go in and make the positive connection, wrap it around there, and we would take our soldering gun, we would come in here with some heat and add some solder to that, and then that would be a nice smooth solder joint right in here, one on each side. And at that point we would use our rubber tape, and the way you use this stuff is you pull on it and it stretches, and that's what activates it. So we would use that to go around the connection and then get it all nice like we started. So it would be one nice big continuous lump of rubber, and then I would use a cable tie to come in behind here and go under the previous wiring and add some strength to that line by cable tying it in place all the way back up into here, so we've got some strain relief on that line so it doesn't accidentally pull on the joint and disconnect your light. Okay, so here we have a new light fresh out of the package. You can actually see they've labeled the polarity of the light, so the brown one is positive, and we know that, and again that's very important that you connect them correctly or it won't work. If you get it backwards, it won't break it, but it just won't come on. So when they come new, they already have a little bracket on them, and you're going to need, I didn't show this tool, but this is a little hex wrench, and then you undo the side bolts. And what we're going to do with that bracket is we're going to take that bracket and we're going to drill a couple of holes in a brick using a masonry bit. And you're going to put some little plastic grommets in there like you would use on a wall or something, and you're going to mount it down onto the brick. So you've seen me do this at your cottage where we drilled a couple of holes, we put in the little plastic inserts, and then we put on the frame. And then we're going to take our light and we're going to mount it onto the frame using those little bolts again. Okay, all right, so here we go. We're going to take the we've got the light mounted onto the brick. I'm going to take off that little positive indicator. I'm going to make these a little longer so I can work with them. So there we got that side a little longer, and we're going to go this side a little more exposed copper. This is where we can wrap the brown side, which is positive, onto the positive side of the wire like that, and then we can wrap the negative side same way around the wire like that. Now this is where we're going to do our soldering. So I've got my propane based soldering done and my resin core solder, and we're going to come in here, and what you do when you're soldering is you heat the work first and then you add some solder to the work like that. Get a nice clean solder joint. Again, on this side I'm going to put some heat on it first, and I'm going to feed in the solder just like that. Alright, now we've got nice looking clean solder joints, and we can actually take any little rough ends off, like this end here. I'm going to prune this back just a little bit and make it nice and neat. Take off any pokey parts like that, and if it's not too hot to touch, this is where I'm going to start to use my electrical tape. Now I'm going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to do each connection first, or I'm going to do the first one, the positive one first. So I'm going to cut off some tape, and this is very stretchy stuff. So you can stretch it like that, get that in there, and get a good wrap around your positive side. And when you pull it, you actually tear it off, which tears it off under pressure. You can see like that. You see how that hangs on there? That's just beautiful rubber. Now on this side we can do the same thing. Take the negative, get it nice and insulate it. And once these are done, we're going to come in with our spool and put quite a bit of tape on there. Take off a piece of length of tape, maybe 20 centimeters long, and I'm going to come into the connection. I'm going to wrap it right around, starting from the back of the connection all the way forward. You can see I've done that. I've gone over the end, made a loop, and come back on itself. So that rubber will now keep the water out. And then what we're going to do is put two cable ties in. One in here. You basically loop it through like this around the base of the light, connect that, and then put one up a little bit farther in here. So now we've got the light all attached and secured, and the final thing will be to lock it in the position that you want, and then also to test it. So we'll turn on the light and see if it works. And as you can see, the light works. Again, just taking a close bit of look at the work that we've done here. We've got a nice two connections separated by distance from each other, soldered, each taped separately, and then tape going up and down to form a nice watertight seal. Cable tie here, and now you can put this light where you want it in your garden.